Hello everyone. Back again with film recaps. In this video, I'm going to recap one of a thriller horror films from 2018, titled Open 24 Hours. Before we get to the storyline, I'd like to wish everyone a happy and great day. Without further ado, let's get straight to the storyline. The film opens with our main character, Mary, who is applying for a job at a 24-hour gas station. Fascinatingly, while filling out the form she states that she is a convicted felon. When Ed, the gas station owner, asks her about it, she openly admits that she's fresh out of prison for setting her boyfriend on fire in the past. Despite it all, Ed hires her because he has a feeling she'd be trustworthy. He then hands her the night shift and tells her to start working right that evening. Mary agrees to work the 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. night shift there, since she cannot find work elsewhere. Afterwards, she hops into a car, where her childhood friend, Debbie, patiently waits for her. Mary excitedly announces that she gets the job, before Debbie drives her back home. While on the way, we can see that the gas station is located pretty far out of town. Mary then gets dropped off at her apartment, and tries to move on with her day. However, when she opens the bathroom door, she suddenly sees her serial killer boyfriend, James, waterboarding an innocent girl.
I know you like to watch.
She watches in horror until she couldn't anymore, and takes her meds.
Hey, you okay?
To her surprise, Tommy, her parole officer, has let himself in. He checks the bathroom right away, but doesn't find anything, which shows that Mary just had a traumatic flashback of her boyfriend. He then gives her a lecture about how she needs to get herself a phone, so it would be easier for her to reach for help, especially because she had been clinically diagnosed as paranoid and delusional. Mary tells him about her new job shortly before he leaves, so Tommy promises to check in with her tonight. He begs her to not stir any trouble, because a lot of people still think she's too volatile and didn't want her to be let out. Later that day, she heads out to meet up with Debbie again, but while she waits, she sees her boyfriend standing not far from her. He menacingly making his way towards her, but again, it's just a hallucination, and she snaps out of it right when Debbie shows up. When the two have supper right after, Mary admits that her condition is getting worse, so her best friend asks her to try and hide this from the police, otherwise they would put her in an asylum given her criminal history. To calm Mary down, she also assures her that there is nothing to be afraid of anymore, because James is still in prison. When Mary gets home again, she gets a phone call from her parole officer Tommy, and proudly boasts to him that she has now set up a working phone. Afterwards, she gets another phone call, this time from an aggrieved woman.
You watched my daughter die.
The woman also says that she's going to watch her die. Scared, she disconnects the landline, but it rings again given her delusional self. When Debbie takes her to work that evening, we learn that Mary looks nervous by the prospect that it's going to rain tonight. As it turns out, the reason is because her boyfriend James used to call her, and play a song titled Raindrops whenever he's about to murder someone. Debbie sympathizes with her, and promises that she'll stick by her no matter how shitty things get. Once they get there, Debbie enters the store with her to check the place out, and the two get introduced to Bobby, one of Ed's longtime employees who is there to show Mary the ropes. He kindly teaches her how to use the cash register and serve customers. After making sure her best friend is all settled, Debbie says her goodbyes and heads back to her car. But unbeknownst to poor Debbie, a figure is lurking under the rain. She then opens her window to let some smoke out, right when a hammer slams into her face. And she is dragged out of the car. Meanwhile, inside the gas station, Bobby hands Mary a set of keys to the place before heading out. After Bobby leaves, she walks around the store out of boredom. We can see the figure outside seems to be eyeing the store, while Mary discovers a locker room in the back. Sometime during the night, she heads outside to smoke, while unbeknownst to her, the figure watches. Mary only registers that someone else might be with her when the store bell rings. As Mary heads back inside, the figure passes by her. All of a sudden, the phone rings. It is from a lady asking how late does the store open. Just then the phone rings again, with the same lady asking the same exact question before hanging up.
Didn't you just call?
The third time the lady calls, she straight up asks Mary about her violent past. This scares her, and she can't tell if it's real or just another hallucination, so she takes some more meds. Right after, Mary hears the back door squeak, so she goes to investigate. She enters the store's office and finds no one inside. Mary then decides to take a piss, and just so happens, her first customer arrives. It is revealed to be a trucker looking to fill up gas, and buy some snacks. While at the register, he constantly flirts with her, and it isn't until he leaves that she realizes he left his credit card on the counter. However, the truck is already driving away. Surprisingly, once the truck passes, she witnesses what looks like her burning boyfriend making his way towards her. Until someone creeps up behind her, so she punches him. It turns out to be Bobby, who is back because Ed told him to check up on Mary. Feeling guilty, she patches him up, and the two share a light-hearted conversation about the flirty trucker who is a regular customer there. Driven by curiosity, Bobby, who's heard that Mary set her boyfriend on fire, carefully asks her about it. Mary answers honestly, revealing that her boyfriend, James, is the infamous serial killer who has killed 35 women. She has survivor's guilt because of this, and shares with him the story of how she found out. When she came home one day, she smelled something foul coming from the basement, so she decided to investigate. There she found that the basement had been flooded, and saw body parts floating in the water. James caught her and threatened to kill her entire family if she ever told the police, so she stayed silent for a while, and from that moment on, he used to make her watch while he murdered his victims. She eventually couldn't take it anymore, so she set the house on fire when he was sleeping, and bears burn marks on her skin to this day. Sadly, her efforts were in vain because James survived and is currently behind bars. Since then, she got really sick and can't tell what was real and what was not. After making sure Mary is fine, Bobby announces to her that he's going to head home now, and as soon as he leaves, two teenagers walk in. Before long though, Bobby's car breaks down. Back at the store, Mary receives a phone call, which plays none other than the Raindrops song. Back to Bobby, he steps out of the car to see what's wrong, but then the figure sneaks up behind Bobby and attacks him. Meanwhile, one of the teenagers who just used the bathroom announced to her that the bathroom is flooded, so she goes outside to check it out. She then proceeds to check the toilet bowl, where she finds Debbie's driver's license. But then she staggers back, and watches as the toilet bowl fills up with blood. And then, one of James' late victims comes crawling, crying and asking why Mary just stood and watched her die then. Mary convinces herself that everything is not real, until all of it disappear. But then a pair of arms reach for her through the wall. She drags herself away, until she stops hallucinating completely. Once she re-enters the store, she finds Tommy, the parole officer, there, announcing that he is here to check on her. Mary is annoyed by how often he checks on her, and Tommy excuses himself to the bathroom. Just then, a customer enters the store, and to her surprise, it turns out to be James. Mary tries convincing herself that he's not real, so he slaps her and tells her that he is. He manipulatively tells her that she's worse than he is, because she just watched people die and didn't do a thing. He'd also like to take vengeance on her for screwing up his life, by killing people tonight and making her watch, and by the end of it, he's going to kill her. Mary then tries to convince herself again that he isn't real, and when she opens her eyes, all she sees is a lady who would like to fill up some gas. But the lady suddenly asks till what time the store opens, which triggers Mary, so she begins accusing her of being the lady on the phone who kept calling her. Tommy cuts in while the confused lady leaves, and gets Mary to finally admit that someone won't stop calling her lately. Worried, he demands her to tell him everything from now on, before heading home. Soon after, she sees a car in front of the gas station that won't seem to leave, so she steps outside, and to her horror, sees something written in blood on the windshield. Horrified, she calls 911, but decides against it when she takes another look and sees that the car is gone, meaning it might just be one of her delusions. But she is nevertheless still alert, so she explores the back rooms. It is at this point that she knows that she's in deep shit, as she discovers Debbie and Bobby strapped to chairs. This prompts her to run back to the store, where she runs into the lady from earlier and feels a bit relieved. She attempts to call 911 for real now, but the line is dead. Well, this is when the lady suddenly pulls out a picture and slashes her palm, revealing that she really is the mysterious caller all along. Her daughter is revealed to be one of James's victims, and she starts blaming Mary for the death of her 18-year-old daughter. Scared, Mary crawls away, while the lady goes after her with a knife and slashes her shoulder. They scuffle with each other when the lady is about to stab her. Luckily, Tommy has come to the rescue. He helps her up, and unfortunately comes bearing bad news that apparently, the big storm has caused a power outage, and thus several prisoners have escaped, including James, revealing to us that Mary hasn't been hallucinating James after all. As if on cue, James appears and instantly knocks him out with a hammer, before doing the same to Mary. As Mary regains consciousness, she finds herself tied to a chair in the back room with the others. James then walks in, and takes a sledgehammer. He reiterates that this is how Mary must pay for betraying his trust, before bashing Tommy's head with it several times until the poor man dies. Right after, he forces Mary to tell him that she loves him, promising that Debbie won't die if she says it. Desperate, Mary proclaims her love for him, but he simply puts a bag over Debbie's head, until she suffocates and dies.
I love you so much.
Up next, he takes a can of gasoline, and pours it over Bobby, but before he gets to burn him, the trucker from earlier returns. The trucker returns to retrieve his credit card. While James goes to take care of the trucker, Mary breaks out of her chair. She then takes out Bobby's gag, and he instantly reveals that there is a shotgun inside the padlocked locker across from them. Mary takes a pipe, and breaks the lock. She manages to get the shotgun, and begins loading its shells. Meanwhile, the trucker discovers blood splatters on the ceiling, and decides to call 911, suspecting that a robbery might have taken place. Back to Mary, she now has let Bobby go, and the two prepare for James' return. At the same time, the trucker decides to explore the back room. But James sneaks up behind him and stabs him on the throat, getting him to stagger backwards towards the locker room door. Mary fired the gun on impulse, not knowing that it was the trucker. When she realizes this, she appears shaken, so Bobby takes the shotgun and reloads it. They head back to the store, and shortly after, James cuts the power, right when the police arrive. They keep moving toward the exit, but again, James bashes Bobby with his sledgehammer while Mary runs and hides. Realizing that she can't stay put for long, Mary dashes her way outside and comes face to face with the officer, who lets her inside the car once she tells him that James the serial killer is after her. But just before they leave, James shows up with the shotgun, and blows the officer's head off. Though dizzy from what she's witnessed, Mary slips out of the car, and makes a run for a scrapyard nearby. She manages to slip away from James, until a dog starts barking at her, drawing James' attention. And so, she enters a random bum house, and arms herself with a shovel. James then enters the same house not long after to look for her, and when he is about to exit, Mary hits him with the shovel, before running away again. She tries to stop a passing car, but it simply drives past. With no other choice, she locks herself inside the store, and goes back to the office room. This is the moment that she gets an idea when she sees the stuffed stag on the wall. James, who chases after her, finally breaks his way in, and slams his hammer on the office door. Mary immediately rams the stag antlers into him, stabbing him in the gut. Afterwards, the trucker's phone rings, and she crawls on the floor to answer it, while James forcefully takes the antlers out. Mary then calls 911, and locks eyes with him for the last time, watching him tell her "I love you" before he takes his last breath and dies. Mary falls asleep there out of exhaustion. But the next time she wakes up, James is no longer there. She feels devastated but relieved at the same time, because she has made it out alive. The last scene shows Mary is working a late shift at her new job as a hairdresser. But as she cleans up, she sees a glimpse of her boyfriend. Okay guys. That's all the recap of Open 24 Hours 2018. Thanks for watching. See you again in the next video.